Welcome to 6 Feet in the Six. I'm your host, Jeff Barrett with Business Interiors. Thank you for joining us today. The purpose of this interview series is for the close-knit Toronto commercial real estate industry to share ideas and best practices in order to help everyone get back to the office safely and efficiently. We'll be interviewing leaders from commercial real estate, project management, interior design, commercial end users, and product manufacturers. Joining us today is Jeff Sinsofsky, Senior Director of Office Leasing for Oxford Properties Group. Jeff, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Well, I've been with Oxford for just about 18 years now. Started in Montreal in 2002. And so that's been about 9 years there, kind of moving up into more senior roles, and then moved to Toronto and started with the team here in 2012. So I'm just about 50-50 between the Montreal office and the Toronto office. And, part of the office leasing team here, we've got about 10 million square feet, all downtown primarily, save and except for one asset in Midtown. And, that's my background in terms of, real estate. I did spend about 5 minutes in brokerage. I started on September 1st, 2001, and then unfortunately the events of 9/11 happened 10 days later, and it was a pretty difficult time to get into real estate and brokerage in particular. So spent about a year doing that, and then wanted to get onto the landlord side to learn more. And so found a position with Oxford, and I've been there ever since.
That's awesome. And personally, how are you managing?
Well, I think probably the same as a lot of people. This has been a difficult time. Hard to see friends and family that you kind of get accustomed to seeing on a regular basis. My family lives in Montreal, and I actually haven't even been able to see them yet this year. So that's been a little bit frustrating, a little bit difficult. And just overall, what's happened in the world and watching the events and, seeing how, different places have responded and different people, how they've responded, it's been tough. Trying to keep positive, trying to keep motivated, trying to, do all the right things. But, it definitely weighs on you from time to time. Summer's been a very welcome thing to, be able to get outdoors, go golfing, see some people outside of the house so you can stay properly distanced and, catch up and things like that. But it's hard to believe that we're kind of coming to the end of August already. So not necessarily looking forward to the winter, but we know it's around the corner. So yeah, I'd say generally pretty good, but some days are more difficult than others.
I'm told you're quite the golfer. Have you gotten more rounds than ever in?
I don't know who told you that exactly. I love to golf. I have gotten quite a few rounds in this year because I did join a golf club for the summer for 8 weeks. That's come to an end now, so I'm back to looking for invitations if anyone's watching, or playing some of the great courses around Toronto. So it's been a good year for golf. I was just out west and played some of the the best courses in Canada, including Oxford's own Banff Springs, which is a tremendous course. So got to play that just over a week ago, and that was pretty amazing.
Can you show us what face masks you've been rocking?
Well, we've got a number of them around, to be quite honest. So here's one that I use relatively often. It's a yoga frog, and actually my girlfriend's mom made it, so that's a nice one. I did wear an N95 mask on a flight that I was recently on, and so on the way there I was allowed to wear the N95. On the way back, things had already changed where they wanted me to wear another mask on top of the N95 because it's got a filter in there. And so I guess it lets, your air out, so somebody might, get some droplets or something like that. So they gave me the option of either wearing one mask or two. I went with the one mask option, just for comfort and things like that. So, I think we're all going to be rocking some, interesting masks when we do, go back to the office, because I think that fashion mask will come back into play. Also had a light up mask for a wedding that I just attended, because we were dancing, but you had to wear a mask when you were dancing. So we had these plug-in USB powered masks that we wore for dancing at a wedding at the Banff Springs Hotel.
I'm normally not a fan of weddings, but I am incredibly jealous that you got to go to a wedding.
It was like one of the first things that felt like we were living in normal times. Watching friends get married in that like one of the most beautiful settings, certainly in Canada, if not the world. And it just felt like kind of old times, and a celebration, which I think is one of the things that's really been missing during this time, is like there haven't been a lot of things to celebrate and to really get you excited and things to look forward to and whatnot. So this was really, it was really special from that respect, because it's been the same for everybody. We're just kind of living day to day, and a lot of the days feel like the last day and the next day. And this changed all of that for that short period of time.
In a new segment on the show, we do a deep dive on our guest LinkedIn accounts and look for posts that need more context. Jeff, you must be a DM kind of guy, because your LinkedIn account has 5 posts in 4 years. So I'm going to take one of those posts, which was a repost from Isabel Talbot from 3 years ago for the annual Cornet Golf Tournament. I think you were on the committee, if I'm not mistaken. I must say I miss this tournament. I mean, it's often organized by golfers, so we usually get on a good course. It's truly the broadest mix of end users, commercial real estate professionals, designers, and vendors. So it's awesome networking. Jeff, when the hell are we going to be able to do this again?
Yeah, well, great question. I'm less of a DMer than I am kind of old school, pick up the phone, or, in regular times, get together for a coffee or lunch or what have you with clients. Yeah, I really like to do things more face to face, which is not really a possibility at the moment. Yeah, so well, the Cornet, I was actually co-chair of the golf committee with a former colleague of yours, actually Kevin Wright. So we hosted that event for, I guess it was 3 years in a row. Last year being the last year. This year, unfortunately, I think with a lot of tournaments got canceled. I think there's still maybe a few that are scheduled, and depends on how things go, if they actually will happen or not. And then, yeah, most of my LinkedIn stuff is, looking at posts and liking posts and things like that. There's some people in my organization who are fantastic at putting content out there that speaks to, what we're doing as a company, and, how we try to differentiate ourselves. So, maybe I could do more myself, but, there's some people who are doing some tremendous things inside of Oxford. So I just tend to look at those and push the like button.
So can you tell us about your book of business and how it's been affected by COVID-19?
Yeah, well, I don't think I'm going to be saying anything shocking here, that, the leasing market has been very quiet since the shutdown in March. And our Q1 results were fantastic, because, January and February, we were kind of off to the races, and, had done quite a lot of leasing that closed in those months. And March, obviously things slowed down, especially after the shutdown. And then it's been pretty quiet since then. So, a few deals here or there, renewals if somebody's got an expiry that's coming up. But most of the activity which we had been seeing previously, and Toronto was, the market was incredible. People have put expansions on hold, maybe moving to a new office. Those decisions are on hold if they don't have to make them. We're really hopeful that things are going to start trending back upwards in September. At Oxford, we're trying to do a number of things to help. We just launched a comeback commission to the brokerage community. So we actually just put that out the other day, and we're going to pay people for new deals that they do in the next, start in the next 6 months, an extra $1 a foot. So, we're hoping that that's going to spur some additional activity. It actually already has, even though we just kind of put that out there on Monday. And, we're just kind of looking at it from, not just, Oxford's perspective, but like the brokers out there. And, I'd say especially the younger brokers who haven't lived through a downturn or, and no one's really experienced anything quite like this, but we know that people are hurting out there. And so we're really trying to help in the way that we can. And, that's to pay them a little bit more. And I think it's also going to be good for us to, get a look at everything that's going on in the market. And, we're really hoping that leads to a number of transactions, and maybe that's the catalyst to get this market back going.
Back to your comment about the office being dead, you hear that all the time. And people like you and I who work within the office environment might think our opinions are biased, but companies are fueled by innovation and culture. I mean, like this is all the best companies in the world have really great, innovative offices and cultures that drive collaboration. And, these things can't happen remotely. Maybe to a point, but there's really kind of activity-based design is a philosophy that's not new, and it's a service that we've been offering for a long time, is to help organizations identify the activities taking place in their office and then recommend settings to support those activities. The reality is there's just a new setting, and it's called the home office, and there are some activities that are appropriate for the home office, and there's some activities that are appropriate in the office. And so we're just going to have a new layer of workplace strategy that's going to start identifying those types of things.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think what has really happened here is there are already a lot of trends that were in the workplace, or how companies were setting themselves up. So work from home is not new. It was already something that was available. I think what the pandemic has done is shown us, we can still be effective working from home. I'll put a caveat on that, because we're all working from home right now, things are very smooth. I think things may be a little bit different when you get 25 or 30 or even 50% of your people back to the office and the remainder stay home. That may present some challenges. But what's happened is, I think flexibility is becoming far more integrated into an employer's philosophy, giving people choice to not only work from home or come to the office, but different options in the office of like depending on what type of work you're doing. Like, do you need to do heads down work? Do you need to do collaborative work? And do you need small meeting rooms? Whatever it is. I think this is going to move a lot of the trends that we were seeing previously along the curve a lot sooner. So I don't think the office is dead. I think it's going to adapt. I think it's going to adapt to a change in maybe it's not everybody at the office, Monday to Friday, regular working hours. It's going to be a little bit more of a balance between people working from home and going to the office, but it's going to support how people want to work in the office. And so I think there's going to be a lot of work for people like yourselves who are, workplace strategists and, furniture providers and designers and construction. Like, there's going to be a lot of work to do coming out of this. Once we get past this, time of uncertainty and people have a little bit better understanding, okay, here's how we're going to adapt and here's how we're going to innovate, our workplace and, on a go forward basis. So, to me, the pandemic has pushed, a bunch of trends forward, sooner than maybe we expected. But I think overall, this will end up being a positive for the workplace, and, we're going to end up with maybe better product, maybe getting rid of the highly dense cube farms that we saw in the past, which has never been a great place to work, and probably not the best attraction and retention tool that a company can have. And so it's going to make them think about, like, what kind of culture am I trying to create? How do I want to attract the best talent out there? How do I, keep people motivated?
Jeff, there's a lot of conversation about organizations leaving the downtown core. Oxford obviously has properties downtown, suburbs, and everywhere else. What are your thoughts on some of those rumors that are out there and people feeling the need to leave downtown?
Yeah, certainly there's a lot of talk about that out there. Personally, I think people and companies are still going to want to stay downtown. I don't see a huge exodus from, downtown Toronto or, any real downtown in a gateway city. But that said, people may look for that kind of hub and spoke model where, they've got a big downtown presence, but, may look to the suburbs to add a secondary office. And again, I think it comes down to providing employees with choice and flexibility. So, we're working on a, pretty amazing project at Square One, which is going to be a real mixed use environment. So the shopping center being, the center of everything. And then we're going to be adding lots of residential, office buildings as well, more retail, including, some purpose-built things, more food and beverage and amenities. And so I don't know if I even want to call it a downtown. So we're actually going to be building the city center of Mississauga, because we are pretty bullish on, the fundamentals of Mississauga and how it's growing. And there actually hasn't been a new building added to that city center in, over 25 years. So we feel pretty good about, coming to market and offering a downtown quality building in a suburban downtown setting, surrounded by amazing amenities. And, really, this is a little bit of an old saying, but this is truly going to be a live, work, play environment where you can have everything right at your doorstep, and connected back to the shopping center, which is, I think it's the largest shopping center in Ontario. So, we've got a pretty good starting point, and we're just going to add, amazing things to that to build a, brand new downtown community for Mississauga.
So Jeff, on each episode, we review a product. Sometimes it's a new product and sometimes it's an old product that has gained some relevancy. This week, we're looking at infrared thermometers. Definitely not a new product, but has become very relevant in today's fight against COVID-19. Checking temperatures of individuals entering any type of indoor space has been recommended by almost every back to work or emergency preparedness research out there. There are no shortage of options, as this tool has been in use for many years for a variety of applications. They're not just for humans, but they can measure any type of surface temperature, and is why they're so widely used. They range from $50 to $150 and can be bought in most building supply stores, and now anywhere else that supplies anything to an office seems to be selling them as well. They often look like a gun, but there are also wall-mounted, freestanding, and tablet versions as well. Studies have shown that they're just as accurate as oral or rectal readers, so there's no compromise using this touchless tool. Their readings can be affected by factors such as outdoor temperature, where on the body you aim, and the distance from the subject. Most suggest 2 feet from the subject, and you aim it at your forehead, as I'm sure we've all experienced by now. I do have some more research around their effectiveness in actually fighting COVID-19, but just broad strokes, Jeff, what are your thoughts on these infrared thermometers and their use in the workplace?
Yeah, well, I think it's a little bit of a difficult topic. I know that Oxford is going to use, or already is using those on people who are working in the properties, especially the cleaning staff who are then going into tenanted space and cleaning those areas. So we've already initiated that. The leasing people who are touring space, especially if we're going through an occupied space, we're going to be doing temperature checks of ourselves as well as a precautionary measure. I think it's just one of the things that we're going to need to kind of live with in the short term before we find a vaccine. Having just traveled and gone through an airport, that was part of the process. It's not really an invasive thing. It takes a couple of seconds. And if it helps keep more people from getting the virus, then I think it's a positive thing. I'm sure there's some people out there that'll have a differing opinion of mine, but I think right now, as a community, as citizens of this planet and trying to stop this, we need to do everything we can to decrease the spread of the virus. And if this is one of the things that I think we need to do, along with the other things like simply washing your hands, covering your face whenever you can't be at least 6 feet apart from somebody. All the things that have been touted over and over again. This just is going to become another one that becomes a little bit more of our current existence until we can find a vaccine.
So now for their actual effectiveness, I'll be honest, it's not looking good. Studies have suggested that temperature checks on their own may miss more than half of infected people. Colin Furness, an infectious disease epidemiologist with U of T, said, we know it's not effective. And as a screening tool, it's really not effective at all. But the reality is it will catch the odd person, and any incremental gain, I think, is beneficial. So, I mean, in my opinion, it doesn't sound like it works very well. But, I think we all know what flu symptoms are and how they feel. So I think if you're feeling warm enough that you would actually register on this reader, that I would really hope that we all know enough to just stay home at that point. So I guess for those people that wouldn't know, it would catch those people, which would be good. But obviously we know the major problem is the asymptomatic people and the silent spreaders, as they've been called. This won't stop them from entering a space. We've also heard funny stories, right? The guy who drinks too much coffee on his ride into the office and registered a high temperature, or the girl who rode her bike in and had a high temperature. I just think of those situations and how are we going to treat those? If this is kind of a tool that we're going to rely on to stop people from coming in, what do you have to go in the corner and cool down for 30 minutes? And now, everyone else is entering the building and now you're in the kind of quarantine penalty box and everyone's looking at you like an infected person. That may not matter at a single company occupying an entire building. But, I think of some of the Oxford lobbies and if they were being used in that capacity, we have to make them wait outside. I don't know. I'm sure it could create some weird situations. I mean, the other thing I mentioned earlier is it's shaped like a gun. And you're arriving to we're already uneasy about being oot in a boot right now. So by the time you get to your destination, now you have a stranger pointing this thing at your forehead. I don't know, it just seems kind of weird to me, and I'm sure some people might have an issue with it. But like other products we've reviewed on this show and have deemed them to be kind of ineffective, they will make people feel good. Because the media has suggested that this is one of the many precautions we need to take, and employees are going to expect it to be in place, regardless if it's effective or not. So that being said, I think mental illness is going to be one of the biggest challenges by far coming out of this. And so if it makes you feel safe enough to venture out of your house and get back to work, then I'm all for it. Whatever can get us back to work faster.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of the things you just said. I can't really speak to the effectiveness of temperature checks. I think you're right. It might only catch a small number of people who are asymptomatic, didn't know that they had a fever. Hopefully that will lead to the decrease of the spread somehow. But I think it's important for all of us to do whatever we can to make sure that we're not exposing other people to potential symptoms. So more than ever, people need to be self-aware. People need to every morning, how am I feeling? Do I have a sore throat? Did I develop a cough or sneezing or whatever overnight? Because it starts right here. It starts with every individual doing their part to say, hey, you know what, something's a little bit off in my physiology today. Maybe I shouldn't go and do that meeting. Maybe I shouldn't go to the office. Maybe it's better to stay home. And people have that option because no one really wants to be exposed to somebody who's not feeling well. I think we've all heard stories about people who showed up to an event or, some parties or things like that, didn't know that they were sick, and then spread it to 30 people who then spread it to another 30 people and so on. And it gets out of control pretty quickly. So yeah, I don't think temperature readers are the be all end all, but, I think it's just part of, one of the things we need to do. And then, one of the things that you touched on was the mental health aspect and what have you. And yeah, we're all being affected by this. No one's immune from the effects of COVID-19 in some way, shape, or form. One of the hardest things, in my opinion, is going to get people comfortable with going back and being close to one another and integrating back into society. And so whatever measures we need to do, including temperature checks, including, whatever else might come about, that's what we're going to need to do, because if we're going to get back to the office in a meaningful way, if we're going to get the economy back moving the way, it was before, or the way it should be, then, people need to feel comfortable that they can, interact with one another. And I think that's going to take some time. I think it's going to take, doing some things that are a little bit out of the norm. But it's an important aspect of, getting people back together, because we need, we can't continue to stay isolated and alone. This isn't what we were meant to do as people, as, people of the world. We're just not meant to be in isolation. We're meant to be together. We're meant to go and socialize. We're meant to go and interact and collaborate and work, and that's how society progresses. It's not staying home and isolated. So whatever we need to do to get there sooner, I think is justified.
Jeff, is there anything else you want the Six to know about you or your firm and how you're joining the fight against COVID-19?
Well, I think we're all just trying to be really good citizens, here in Toronto, where our headquarters are, and supporting frontline workers. I think, we've done a lot of initiatives to try to do that. And I know lots of organizations have, and, I don't think, you can say thank you enough for the people who have been risking their lives and been on the front line. So, I think, I'll say it again, thank you to all those people. And, we at Oxford and me personally, we all really appreciate all the efforts that have been made. Aside from that, just trying to be a good person and, not let this affect you in a total negative way. And, I think there is a bright side to look at, and there's, some positive things that are going to come. We need to, use some patience and use some caution and things like that. But, it's just remembering that, we're all in this together. We need to support one another. If people need help, this is the time that, more than ever, that they should be reaching out to friends and family and not feel isolated. Because, I think there's an easy way to do that. So, I would just encourage people to continue to talk and communicate and reach out. And, we just need to, do the best we can to be good to one another.
Jeff, thank you for sharing how you and Oxford are joining the fight against COVID-19. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Toronto, you are the best city in the world, and we can't wait for you to feel better.